Good morning. Quick draw. This is a sort of market square in Alnwick, on the river Aln, and on that thing there it says they've been trading since 600 AD, for heaven's sake. Yeah, so it's very old. Well, seems like a nice little town. Got the Dukes of Northumberland. Don't offend them, you'll be in trouble. I dare say that their law still rules. I'm just an oik from outside. No! There's actually a reverb here. It's empty now, obviously. Right, so don't upset the locals, obviously. The camera's on Market Square. I don't know if anyone ever actually watches these cameras, but possibly. Right, COVID-19. BBC News, yet another expert saying we're in for at least 10 years. Okay, so that's basically kicking the ball into the long grass, into the indefinite future, that COVID-19 is going to transform everyone's lives. Most interesting. I mean, you think of all these cities with their huge, great, stupid office palaces that people run up. I mean, I was in London in the late 80s, and they were building those two huge towers in the East End in the Isle of Dogs. Not the Isle of Dogs, actually, further east. Anyway, and there was a new floor going up every day. I mean, it's called the York Brothers. They're Jewish Canadian brothers. To prove what? They're blooming priapuses. Penises, basically. Sorry. Begging your pardon. For men to prove that they've something. You know, they've built a building. So what? In South Africa, where I grew up, I went back. And round Graaff-Reinet, it's not as spectacular as in, I think it's Arizona in America, but right, it's volcanic. So you get the volcanic plug coming up. The magma or whatever it's called. That's the hard rock, and then all the land around it. We're talking, you can drive up to 1,000 feet above us. And over the millennia, thousands of years, God washed away the earth and left these volcanic plugs, the hard rock. And mankind thinks he's the big cheese. Oh, please. I'm staying in a small hotel locally. It's a bit of a tiny room with no windows and stuff, but there's a sort of window out the back somewhere. You put the fan on in a room to clear the air. Anyway, old brother or sister spider at the window has made his or her web to catch little beasties for their breakfast. The spider's breakfast, I mean. That's nature going on. I can hear a cheepy bird somewhere up there. Now, I'm wrestling with this decision. Do I move up here or not? Well, I am here, obviously. I'm booked in for another 3 more nights now. Brain is actually in gear this time. Saturday night, Sunday night and Monday night, and then I booked on a train back down south. Right, so I have nothing to do and I'm doing it slowly. But underlying this is my utter, deep love of God through Christ, and my longing through my love of God through Christ to love my neighbour. So who is my neighbour? Well, these days my neighbour is the jolly old supermarket stacker and filler and stuff. Thank heavens they were around, and the person who drives the lorry and so on and so on. Or in India. I've been there. The way it works is, if they sleep on their little trolley bicycles, if they don't get a fare that day, they don't eat that day. It's as simple as that. So never mind coronavirus. They just starve to death. So the poor people are going to suffer. Right. I can't sort all that out. I'm sorry, I just can't. That is in God's hand. I cannot. There are going to be countless people suffering through this COVID thing. The one that still troubles me is, we found, I used to know the 3 doctors who started Médecins Sans Frontières. It's 3:15. 3 a.m. And we found this little child in a township at Middelburg, I was then. It's where all the lorries come together. It's a big sort of centre thing. Hence why it's called Middelburg. That's gone out. Oh dear. Right. He had the body of a 6-month-old, but we found his birth papers eventually, and he was 2. I walked around the house with him. He had no language. He'd been locked in a cupboard. Someone has obviously fed him. Right, but the women have a housey father with the lorry drivers, and then they haven't got the money to support this little child that comes along. Now, where is the loving God in this? For that little one to come into the world. He died at the age of 2. We christened him Luke. He had no... We found his birth papers. He was 2-year-old. Yeah. The best answer I've had is from a Roman Catholic nun, sister, whatever. Their little souls go straight to heaven. Well, okay. Luke. Luke was a physician. Matthew, Mark, Luke and John in the Gospels, the New Testament. Luke was the healer, the doctor, the physician. I'm afraid that one little life has affected me hugely in its way. There are countless other stories of a similar nature. My problem is, how do I love my neighbour? What can I do about it? We've just made another blooming Britain arms deal with Saudi Arabia so they can blast the hell out of Yemen. Before this COVID lockdown, there were 3.5 million people in the northwest corner of Idlib, sort of bottle or kettle or whatever they call it, because they've got nowhere else to go. 3.5 million people, right? They bomb the hospitals. I train as a medical doctor. They bomb the hospitals because in case the other side's army people are in there, the fighters or whatever. That's their excuse. You're meant to leave medical people alone in a war zone. Under the Geneva Convention. Right, well, we don't hear much about Idlib province at the moment on the news. Or, for that matter, global warming, actually. That's sort of been pushed off the agenda. It's all coronavirus, coronavirus, coronavirus. Well, I am here. I'm not a fool. I'm 63 years old. I am a Christian. And I'm praying for God's guidance to guide me to a way of doing something about this. To let... I've got to stand up. Creaky, creaky, creaky. Blasted left leg broken. Had a former wife. Came off horse. Now, you hear that birdie? I think it's a starling or a swift swallow. Right. To guide me, as in, guide me, oh, Lord. There's a reverb here, isn't it? Great Jehovah, lead me through this barren land of... Might wake up the locals. Right. Enough said. Cheerio.